Alright, so this is going to be part 3 to what if Asta had time magic. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the raw fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, so before we actually get started with the what if, I like to say that this video and a few others are pre-recorded. So as of the time of making this, I don't have internet. So the next few videos that are going up on my channel when I do have internet are going to be the videos that I have the latest parts like on my phone. Like I don't have access to some of my other what ifs, like their latest parts, so I can't make the next part without rewatching the latest one so I could get caught up to what I did last time or where I left off. So this and a few other ones are going to be ones that I have on my phone currently, because I don't keep all of them on my phone because they would just take up too much space. So yeah, as this is like being recorded, I do appreciate those who do stay and waited for me to upload again, because I do get notifications, right? I don't have internet, and I know it sounds like a first world problem, but I don't have service or data. Like my data doesn't I don't have good service out here where I live, so I can't really upload anything or really check too many things. I do get notifications when people comment, so I'd like to thank those who stayed with me, because I did lose a few subscribers. Not many, I gained more than I lost, but still. I just like to thank everyone who stayed and supported. So anyways, let's get into the what if. So last time we just got done with them going to Saucy Village. So in this one we're actually going to do the village, and Asta doesn't really he didn't fight that noble during the royal knights, not royal, the knights, magic knights assessment or whatever, because did that. So he's not gonna fight that he's not gonna fight the noble right again. So yeah, after Asta and everyone else grieve over the loss of the chief of Saucy Village, this is when Yami would give them their paychecks, and Asta, not being used to this kind of money, is very shocked and like happy to get this much, and he decides to give most of it away to the church so that they could have enough money to support themselves. So I think her name is Vanessa. Yeah, Vanessa basically gives the idea to Noelle and Asta to kind of save some of their money so that they could buy stuff that could help them, like Noelle with her problems with magic or magical control. So they would still go to the black market as usual, and the Wizard King would still be there in disguise, right? Everything would basically go down the same way as it was, just a lot easier, since Asta has time magic and his binding magic is really powerful. But the Wizard King would look at this and be more at awe, since there's another person like him, right? Because time magic is very rare. I think it's even more rare than light magic, because in the series there's only been one time wizard or time mage. Well, there's been two light mages or two light wizards. So yeah, and the Wizard King would be more at awe with Asta, since they have the same affinity, right? So they have that kind of kingmanship, how do you call it, whatever, but yeah, they would have that kind of connection. So after a few days later, this is when Yami would tell Asta that they've been assigned to go, or him in particular and Noelle were assigned to go to check out this new dungeon that appeared, and the Wizard King himself asked for them to go. So Yami decides to have Luck, be the kind of third person leading the team, right? So Asta's very excited because he gets to go on his like first like real mission, I guess, other than the one in Saucy Village. So they would get there. They would have Finro kind of get close as they could, and they would go down that kind of narrow pathway, or the hallway that they go through normally, and eventually they would find their way through to the actual main dungeon part. And Asta Noel, and Luck would see all this kind of weird, architecture with these like flowing like mana streams. I believe that's actual mana, if I remember right. So they would start walking around when all of a sudden Asta would be like, Noel, don't step there. And she'd be like, why? And this is when Luck would step on the trap, activating it, and Asta would have to use his time magic to kind of stop it, right? And there's multiple ways he could do it. He could just like stop the time for the trap, reverse it, or accelerate it to where it's no longer there. So I'll just say that's how I justify him stopping it, other than him overpowering it, because he could do that. So they would continue to go down a path that they would be following Luck, right? And this is when Luck would feel some people with larger amounts of mana, and he would go that way to go and look for a fight. So he would basically what Asta and Noel would do is that they would just continue walking, and eventually they would get to a trap where it's that kind of Venus flytrap. And this one, it's a lot easier because time magic in Black Clover is basically a one-shot. We see this with basically every fight that Julius is ever in. He one-shots his opponent. The only time he doesn't one-shot someone is with the fight with Lick or Patry, and he wasn't really using his he was only using his binding spell, which is not lethal. So Asta would basically have to shoot a beam of time at the Venus flytrap, and this would basically one-shot it. So this would be similar to what happens with Julius and that kind of root magic user that's part of the Midnight Sun. So yeah, hearing this noise, this is when the Golden Dawn would come. Mimosa and Klaus would come, and this is when the Black Bulls and the Golden Dawn would meet up, and and Asta would kind of have that kind of reunion, right? So this is when Klaus would basically say we don't have much time, and we can't, they only should have sent us and not the Black Bulls. And Asta would take offense to this, and as he's talking to Klaus, this is when Mimosa and Noel would catch up, just how they do in the anime. After Asta and Klaus were done arguing, this is the part where Asta would meet Mimosa and realize that they're cousins, Mimosa and Noel. So after this kind of exchange happens, this is when Klaus would declare how about we have a race to see who gets there first, right? And the person who gets there first would get all the glory. So this is when Klaus and Mimosa would go on it's kind of like wind transportation magic, and they would kind of fly out of there, and they would use Mimosa's kind of plant magic to see where exactly the vault is. So that's what they would do. So Asta and Noel at this point are kind of trying to look where the kind of vault is at, right? In this one, Asta does have magic, so he doesn't know how to sense it, right? But there's so much mana around kind of clouding it, just how it does in the kind of anime normally. So they have kind of Nero helping like navigate, right? Because Nero would still be here trying to like make them more, or just generally helping them out so they would be ready to get the other magic stones. So eventually they would go down several different pathways and they would sense Luck's mana again. So they would go down that path instead of going straight for the dungeon. So in this one, it kind of goes the same as the anime, where they get to Luck and he's fighting over that I believe it's the Diamond Kingdom, or it's the Diamond Kingdom's what's it called, one of the generals. So he's fighting the kind of smoke mage, or the smoke general. So when Asta and Noelle get there, this is when the kind of smoke general would actually do his kind of magic to kind of put smoke all over the place, so it'd be hard for them to kind of get through, and also it'd make him faster. So Luck is very hesitant to fight with Asta and Noelle, since he likes to fight alone and he wants to fight so he wins and he gets his mother's approval. But eventually Asta keeps on saying that, you're gonna do what you're gonna do, but I'm gonna do what I feel like is right, which is to help my friends. And eventually this gets to Luck and he decides to work together. So in this one, it's kind of easier because Asta in this one is a lot faster. He's one of the fastest characters in the series at this point because of his time magic, right? And he also has some of the best reaction time as well. So the plan is that they're going to shoot a lot of projectiles, right? But instead of actually hitting their target, this is when Asta would use chronostasis, right? And if you don't know, when he uses chronostasis on like magic or projectiles, he's actually able to make them go a lot faster, just how Julius is able to do. You could see this with I think it's the fight with Patri, and that's kind of like, when I went on the wiki, that's kind of how they describe the spell, how he's able to accelerate the time for certain spells. So yeah, basically what I think would happen is that he would kind of make like this area using both Luck and Noelle's kind of spells together, and basically make it where he's kind of trapped, and he would just seek them all to one spot, kind of like Piccolo's Hellzone grenade from Dragon Ball, if you've ever seen that, where he puts a bunch of key blasts in the air and they all swarm to one person, and the person in the middle can't escape because they're just everywhere in every direction. So I think it'd be something similar to that, and this would get the mage to be knocked out, and Luck, Noelle, and Asta would go to the vault after this. This would be the part where Mars would attack the Golden Dawn, right? And Mimosa would still be out of the fight because she was attacked first and it was a sneak attack. So we're just gonna kind of skip that part because it goes the same as the anime. And then Asta would come, right? Asta, his time magic, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work too much, not like too well against what's it called, Mars's magic, because Mars is mineral magic, and then fire magic as like a side thing, but it wouldn't work too well, I guess, because minerals are in the ground and they stay there for like thousands of years and they change like that. So it's kind of difficult to say how time magic would affect those kind of magics, but we could say it could like still work to a certain extent. So if we say that the time magic works on Mars's mineral magic, then we could say that it'd be a pretty easy fight. Asta would be able to one shot basically all of his, kind of diamond or mineral kind of like clones, he'd be able to defeat those pretty easily using kind of just regular blasts. So when Mars actually does that kind of like mech suit out of minerals, this is a pretty easy target for Asta to fire just a normal beam at him, right? Because like I've been saying, like it's really overpowered. Time magic in Black Clover is very overpowered because it basically one-shots anything in the series. So I don't think Asta would try to go for a kill shot in this one. After breaking, like, let's say a leg from that kind of armor, this is when he would rush in with his time cutter, which is a spell which is basically like a sword that has like a dull edge that basically ages the kind of cut line that it goes through, so it appears kind of sharp. So this is what he would go. He would, after shooting the leg off, he'd be like time magic, time cutter, and he would rush Mars after that. And Mars, to defend himself, would use those kind of spinning knives, right, that he could make. But I think Asta would be able to dodge them pretty easily using his time magic, and I think he'd be able to get a good slash over Mars. So this would knock out Mars, and this is when Klaus would use his binding magic against him, right? Just how he does in the anime. And this is when Klaus would realize that he has time magic, the same magic as the Wizard King, and he now realizes what Yuno said to him earlier, which was not to underestimate him because he's strong, right? And this is where he kind of realizes that he made a mistake, right? So after all that was done, they would see the giant kind of door, right? So Asta in this one would use time, I guess he would use his time magic to age the door to the point where it would just kind of like disappear, even though it is made out of mana. So I think he would just age it to the point where the mana would just disperse. So yeah. And then they would get into the kind of dungeon area, right? So they would look around, and each of them would get their kind of stuff they do in the anime. Yuno would still get the wind spirit, but Asta, in this one, I'm gonna say he gets this kind of weapon, right? It's called Kronos' staff. Basically, it's based off the kind of Titan from Greek mythology, the first Titan, I believe, called Kronos, and I think he's known for having a scythe. From when I remember looking up different kinds of scythes for the Sunshine What If, that was one of the scythes that kind of kept coming up when I looked up like famous different scythes. So yeah, the basic design is kind of like a a golden kind of staff, and where the kind of blade and the actual staff kind of connect, that's gonna be like 3 sets of like gears, kind of on their kind of stacked together, and they're gonna be like golden with like kind of a blue design in the middle, and time like magic is gonna be what the blade is made out of, right? And I was thinking of different like ideas for what Asta could get, and I think this one's like the best out of them. Basically, the scythe is able to cut through time and space, and he's able to have multiple copies of Asta, or Asta's able to have multiple copies of himself. It's kind of like the scythe that Goku Black uses, and where he's able to make multiple copies of himself by pulling them out of like different dimensions. It's kind of be like that, but also the kind of 3 gears that are on the scythe can actually come off, and when Asta hits someone with it, they actually go back 3 seconds into the past. Like not like them going like time traveling necessarily, kind of like they would be in the place that they would be 3 seconds ago, but time is still in the same general area. I got this idea from the video game Paladins. One of the characters, Atlas, has an ability where he's able to shoot someone and they go 3 seconds in the past, and they would go like let's say they were at like the back of like a map, but they went to the front, and that took like 3 seconds, and if that person would be shot by that ability, then it would go back to like the back of the map, right? So it's kind of like that, right? I think this like thing wouldn't really affect their physical condition, but mostly where they are, it would affect their location. So yeah, if you guys want this weapon to also contain the spirit of like the time magic spirit, if you want that to be the thing, because I don't think Asta would have a power up if he doesn't have a spirit, kind of like he wouldn't have a power up until he uses like a spirit. But if you don't want that, then yeah, I'll have a poll on this video for that. So Asta would see this kind of magic, or this like kind of staff, and he would see it, right? He would only see like the staff part and the gears, and he would grab it, and this is when the kind of blade at the top would come out, and he would notice that it's time magic, and he would kind of use it, right? He would swing, and it'd be really powerful, but also it would make a slash in reality, and he would check it out, and he would like kind of open it, and this is when he would find another Asta, right? And he'd be like, wow, this is interesting, and he would notice the kind of like symbols on the side of the staff are the kind of handle, right, where it has like different Roman numerals, and he would notice that this is like basically meant for his time magic, and he would notice in his grimoire that that new spell would be there. So he would put it back into his grimoire to see if it would work, and it would, and he would get the other Asta out of there, right? So after this is done, he would tell people, he would tell his kind of group there of what he just found, and this is when this is when Mars would actually come back from consciousness, and he would actually take out Mimosa, or not Mimosa, I think it's Noel this time. And seeing how he did like a sneak attack, Asta would be pretty angry, and the only thing that like Mars is saying is that he has to destroy the weak. He's kind of mumbling this kind of like this kind of phrase over and over. He says he needs to destroy the weak, right? And this is when Asta's kind of like, he's like, why is he saying this, right? He's confused. So when he goes to actually attack, this will also be the point where he would like trap everyone other than Mimosa, and this is when Mimosa would just try to be healing Noel, and Mars would try to kill her, right? So this is when Asta would come kind of to protect him, right? He has a staff, or not staff, he has a scythe, right? It's not a sickle since it's not one-headed. So he would use the scythe to cut open multiple like cuts in reality, and this is when other Astas would come, right? And it's a very easy fight because they all would have time magic. I think they would use their kind of beams to kind of chip away at the armor, basically, and this would break most of the armor. And this is when Mars, using his kind of last resort, would use that kind of giant sword, right? And this would be aiming at Noel and Mimosa, right? And as this is happening, this is when would use his kind of grimoire automatically, right? Because he would get enough of himself free, and this is when he would like pause time, and the sylph, the wind spirit, would use her magic to kind of break it in half. So this is when he would unlock it. So after that was done, this is when Asta would basically hit Mars with the back end of his scythe, so it wouldn't be the blade, it'd be the blunt kind of staff or the handle. So this would knock him out, and as this is going down, this is when the kind of dungeon itself is kind of falling apart, and they don't really have enough time to get everyone, so Mars is left there, but he's later saved by the general. And yeah, they get out there, and Asta in this one isn't as hurt as he was in the anime, nowhere to near that extent. And this is when Klaus would kind of apologize to Asta, saying that he was wrong about commoners, and he will also hug Yuno and Asta at the same time, right? So this would inspire Klaus to kind of train like he does in the anime physically, right? So they kind of had that they leave off on that kind of high note, right? So I'm gonna end it off here, and in the next video we'll go over the kind of attack on the city. And yeah, so like I would like to say, I really appreciate people watching my videos and staying with me through this kind of time where I'm not uploading. And if you got this far, I would like to say that this second part of the video is recorded on Tuesday, where my internet should have been fixed, but something happened, and basically they have to call up a different part of the company to fix a certain part of the internet, or it's like this kind of pole, I guess, it's not working, it's not sending the right signal or something, and they got to go out there and fix it the next day. So hopefully on Wednesday it should be fixed.